Good evening, I'm Maria Shakil and you're watching NDTV. Over the next 30 minutes, I will tell you about two gruesome killings and why these stories must be told. Both are bone-chilling, both about ordinary girls. A 23-year-old Jahnavi Kandula and a 28-year-old Nayana Mahat. It's the sheer brutality and insensitivity with which they die reflects something is badly broken within us. Our first story is coming from Seattle. 8 months after the death of Jahnavi Kandula, the body cam video of Daniel Orderer has gone viral. He was the Seattle police officer. The officer can be heard saying that the young woman's life had limited value and would be paid off with just $11,000 check. An investigation may have been launched into this horrific event, but it also reflects the sheer insensitivity with which cops view Indians.
She went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah, just write a check. Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Shocking body-worn camera footage from January.
She was in a crosswalk.
Seattle police officer Daniel Orderer laughing at the death of Indian student Jahnavi Kandula, who had just been killed after being rammed by his colleague Kevin Dave's car. According to report, Dave was driving his vehicle at 74 miles per hour when his vehicle struck and killed Jahnavi Kandula, who was just 23. Orderer was sent to evaluate whether Dave was impaired. An investigation has been launched into the horrifying events. The recording was released by the Seattle Police Department on Monday. The department said it would not comment on the matter until the Police Accountability Office concludes its investigation into the incident.
Joking about how much her life might be worth, even if he was mocking an attorney, is just really heartbreaking and shocking to hear.
A vigil was held for Jahnavi in the week of a collision. Initially, Orderer reported the officer was driving his car at 50 miles per hour and was not out of control. However, a police investigation found that the car was at 74 miles per hour when it hit Jahnavi. The cause of death was multiple blunt force injuries. Jahnavi, a native of the Kurnool district of Andhra Pradesh, was a student at the Northeastern University campus in South Lake Union and was on track to receive a master's degree in information systems this December. That dream will sadly never become a reality. Bureau Report, NDTV.
And how are students in US looking at this brutal killing clearly now? Lakshay Goel is Indian student in Florida. We also have Anjali Murthy joining me from New York. Lakshay and Anjali, thank you so much. A regular person just write a check. That's what the cop said. It's shocking and shameful. How are Indian students looking at this? How worried are you after this incident?
I mean, it's shocking. I think we hear this footage from someone who's supposed to protect and serve, and that's what's even more shocking is the plight of the international student who comes from India, who comes from overseas, to have this higher education in America, and they want to feel protected by those in law enforcement, and they don't. And so from an NAAIS perspective, the North American Association of Indian Students, we're shocked. We are mortified. And as much as we're trying to raise advocacy and awareness, it's hard. When it happened in January, we reached out and are working with and communicating with the Seattle Mayor's office to see how can we build up that trust in the community again. Because the problem is, how can we get these students to trust those who are supposed to protect them? It creates rifts in the community. And as an organization, we are trying to figure out the best way to kind of address that issue. Because the problem is Seattle is a place where students will come.
In the Seattle police that they broke this trust, that it's not just about road rage because this officer was, driving at a speed of 74 miles per hour when vehicles in this particular area are not supposed to be more than 25 miles per hour. Do you think it's more than just an accident. What has been caught on camera is about that she was just a regular person, and we can write off a check and it'll be all right.
Well, we don't know. I think when it comes down to the motives of things like this, we do have to look at certain verbiage that was used, and it's interesting to see how this police officer detective seemed to place himself over the value of the person, at least in a value perspective,
yes,
which is maybe one of the scariest things. And especially from someone who, is a student from an international country. At this point, we don't know what the motive is, but I think in this world that we live in, we cannot rule anything out as of just yet, especially quantifying the price of someone's life. This is never something you want to hear from someone who is supposed to serve.
Tag a value of life. That's very, very disturbing. Anjali, we try to get in touch with the family. They are very distraught. We tried to speak to them. It's difficult for parents to really talk about it. But what has been shared is that she was a brilliant student, just like any student who was there, who would be there, or any student in America who was there on a scholarship. And she was a daughter of a single mother. The mother is a school teacher. This story has so many dimensions to it. But for students like you who are in America, Indian students, what does it actually reflect? Because the point being made by Lakshya about the plight of students, is it about that sheer, arrogance with which the cops look at Indian students?
So thank you so much for having me. I think this is an extremely important topic to be speaking about, and I absolutely agree with Lakshay on the fact that it is about the plight of students. I personally am going to an art school in New York City, which is an epicenter of political, activistic, motivated art. And we talk a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement. We talk about police brutality, and I think it's several kinds of glass ceilings being shattered when we hear the people that are supposed to be protecting us talking about our lives like we're nothing. There's a certain degree of feeling like you matter to a certain extent, and then there's a monetary value that's written off in the form of a check. And to hear something like this, like I grew up in Pune, and to hear somebody from that same demographic going through this and then being laughed about like this is, it's disturbing, of course.
Is it about Indians' life matter? That we matter, students like you matter, you want to be heard. And it should not be about price of a life.
And I think what Lakshay said about it being a matter of value of life is incredibly poignant, because saying that she's only worth $11,000 is completely tone deaf to the reality of what her life would have meant to everybody around her. I think that there's a certain way that people who are not law enforcement could be viewed, and in that case, of course, we don't want to make assumptions, but actions do speak. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm going to play that video again, because it's been 8 months after this video has surfaced, and it has certainly given a new twist to the investigation, which is ongoing. The students in US, Indian students in US, you heard from Lakshay and Anjali, they are disturbed. They are seeking accountability. Let's listen into this audio again, and I'll be going back to them for the final comments.
I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah, just write a check. Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
She was 26 and had a limited value. Lakshay, that 26-year-old was perhaps carrying the burden of dreams and expectations of a single mother. And she was there for studies. And this is the way a cop is talking about it. What is the Seattle police communicating to your organization?
Well, first I want to say it's infuriating to hear this audio is absolutely infuriating. And in terms of our communications with the Seattle mayor's office, as the political outreach lead of this organization, unfortunately, we've been having to do this way too often recently. There's been a lot of events in the Indian community, and the city of Seattle is being slow but responsive. And so we're hoping to find a better answer soon. But listening to this audio is just absolutely, it's diabolical. You see a complete disregard for human life in a manner and a magnitude that I didn't even think was possible. Attacks on the community, not even just the Indian community, the international community, the student community. Everyone should be outraged because life should be treated with more value.
Yes, and what is the current status of the investigation, Anjali?
I don't know the exact details of the current status of the investigation. What I can say is that it has been 8 months since this video was taken, and we're only finding out about it now for it to be covered on NDTV. I think this says a lot about the rate at which these kinds of incidents can be covered up, as well as it says a lot about him saying the fact that she was a regular person. I think that's something that just sticks with me. I think it says a lot about the implicit power structures, hierarchies that we say don't exist, but they really do implicitly dictate how our society functions. And I feel for her mother, I feel for her family, I feel for the community, the rich community of international students who come to this country hoping for, a chance at equality, at a professional life. She was probably headed to a really, really bright future. And
all of that has been shattered. And she has been termed as a regular person, just a 26-year-old who had limited value, and the value of her life, according to Seattle Police Corp, was just $11,000. It's shameful. Somebody has to be held accountable, and this officer must be punished. Anjali and Lakshay, thank you so much. We are shifting focus to another story back home here in India. In yet another shocking case of intimate partner violence, a case has come to light, this time from suburb near Mumbai. A man has killed his girlfriend, then dumped her body stuffed in a suitcase with the help from his wife. Yes, his own wife. And in Noida, closer to the national capital of India, a husband killed his wife, a Supreme Court advocate, and then invited property dealers to their home to try and sell off their bungalow. Cold, calculated violence against a life partner. Is this a rising trend in India? We try and decode this very, very disturbing phenomenon.
Out for a holiday, or so it seemed to people who saw this family of 3 getting in this lift with the suitcase on the 9th of August. But they had casually walked out of a flat in Nayagaon near Mumbai after stuffing the body of the resident in her own suitcase. According to the Nayagaon police, the dead woman, 28-year-old makeup artist Nayana Mahat and 43-year-old costume designer Manohar Shukla, both employed in Bollywood, were in a relationship. Manohar was married, had 2 children, and Nayana wanted them to get married. On the 9th, they had a fight about this.
सुबह ही 10 बजे जो जब अंदर गया उसकी झटापटी हो गई वो कि तुम मुझे ऐसा करते हो, तुम मेरे साथ नहीं रहते, तुमने मेरे साथ शादी नहीं की, तो मैं अभी फिनेल पीऊंगी. फिर वो एसिड पीने की कोशिश की. तो ये बोला कि तुम मरना ही चाहती हो, इसीलिए वो बकेट में जो पानी था उसके सर को ऐसे बकेट में डुबो दिया. और 4-5 मिनट में वो उसका ये होने के बाद उसको घबरा गया कि अभी वो शायद बेशुद्ध है, उसको होश नहीं रहा होगा, इसीलिए वो बेड पे उसको सुला के काम पे चला गया.
According to the police, Manohar returned to the victim's apartment in the Suntech building at night with his wife and 1 child. They packed the body into a suitcase, rode to Valsad in Gujarat and threw it in a creek. Nayana's sister filed a missing person report, but she could not be found for over a month. The disappearance was finally connected to an unidentified body found in Gujarat. Nayana's body was unrecognizable, but her sister identified her by this tattoo. Nayagaon police have charged Manohar with murder and both him and his wife with removing evidence. Cut to Noida, Sunday, 10th of September. A 62-year-old former Indian Information Service officer was arrested for murdering his wife, a Supreme Court lawyer, Renu Sinha, in their bungalow in Uttar Pradesh's Noida. All because Renu was opposing the sale of their home. The police said that the accused, Nitin Sinha, hid in the storeroom of the bungalow after committing the crime.
पुलिस की टीम, फॉरेंसिक की टीम और सभी अधिकारी मौके पर पहुंचे और मकान का ताला जो है वो बंद था, उसको दरवाज़ा तोड़ करके वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग में और अंदर जब जाके देखा गया तो महिला की डेड बॉडी पड़ी हुई थी। इसमें इनके पति नितिन नाथ सिंह जिनका नाम है, इनके द्वारा ये बात बताई गई कि चूँकि मैं ये प्रॉपर्टी बेचना चाहता था जिसमें ये रहती थी और उसी में इनका झगड़ा हुआ था। झगड़ा होने के कारण ये हाथापाई हुई इनकी और इन्होंने जो है अपनी पत्नी का गला दबा दिया जिससे उसकी मृत्यु हो गई।
A 32-year-old woman killed and chopped into over 20 pieces in Mumbai, not by a stranger, but her own live-in partner. From the gruesome murder of Shraddha Walkar by her long-time partner, to Nikki Yadav being killed and stuffed into a suitcase by her boyfriend, from a 16-year-old girl being stabbed to death in a busy lane in Delhi by her alleged lover, to now this incident in Mumbai. These murders have one thing in common. They were all committed by their partners in the heat of anger, a fight, or plain old jealousy.
When we are talking about crime against women, we are always harping on the statistics. But when we analyze, we observe that around more than 95% of the crime against women is perpetrated by people known to the women.
Every little girl is told to watch out for strange men. But no girl is ever told to be scared of her own husband or lover. People that she expects will be a safe space. But it is in these very spaces that she finds herself most vulnerable. But is the onus really on society? Society that tells its women that men will be men and that men will be violent. And therefore, the crisis in masculinity remains unresolved. With camera person Sanjay Kaushik and Pujaria, this is Nayana Mahat for NDTV.
And the fact is that all these women on your television screens have been killed in their own homes by men they trusted, by men they believed were their protectors, till they turned out to be perpetrators, murderers. Joining me on the show, Nirmal Kaur, former DGP, Dr. Anjali Chhabria, psychiatrist. We also have Ishani Sharma, advocate of the Supreme Court. Nirmal Kaur, beginning with you, why do wives become partners in crime when it comes to relationships outside marriage?
I think this is strange, because wives somehow, more of an accomplice in killing her. She becomes an accomplice to get rid of the other woman. And I think this is a very strange thing, when they don't look out for women. They're looking out for their own husbands, their own lives, their own family. But they don't really care for the other woman. And this is what has happened, stuffing her body in a suitcase, taking it along with the kid, so that no one suspects them. It is just like a normal family on an outing with a suitcase. And the wife is helping get rid of the body. So I think wives help because the continuity of the family or the social kind of expectation of a working family. And this kind of things, the lady wives have to, the girls, the wives have to really care for their husbands, but not to the extent of protecting them from a crime of murder like this or any crime for that matter.
Okay.
You look out for your family, but you don't cover their crimes for them.
Okay, Dr. Chhabria, what explains this sudden rise in this nature of crime?
I don't know whether it's suddenly risen or we are noticing these things more and we are reporting it more. It definitely tells us that, of course, our police is working very well and our media is also working very well. But what actually the crux of the problem is that I think this whole thing about love and, we must tolerate anything and everything in love is what needs to be addressed. I think we need our youngsters, our young girls and boys to be educated about romance, relationships and how to deal with it. Because obviously it's not that suddenly somebody is woken up and killed you. There must have been signs of anger. There must have been signs of violence. And why is it that these women could not get out of the relationship? I think we need to understand that fact and we need to work with our youngsters in telling them about this. of course, mental health issues have really gone over the roof, especially after COVID.
Yes,
and
but Dr. Chabria, the fact is that in Noida, a Supreme Court lawyer is killed by her husband only over a property argument, and then her body is inside the house while he shows his bungalow to various property dealers. It's more than just post-COVID, mental imbalance. I would say something is really, really broken here.
No, absolutely. So after COVID, as we were looking at COVID, I want that we need to assess mental health. Mental health needs to be assessed on a priority. We need a mental health minister in our country. We need people to find out what is stress, what is distress, why is the mind disturbed, and why are they going to such acts of anger. Now, let me just clarify one thing. All the people who have committed these acts are not mentally ill people. But what we need to understand is what is disturbing the balance. Why is it that anger is turning to violence, is turning to murder so fast? We definitely need to examine this, study this, and come up with better solutions.
Okay, Ishani, how can these women be protected?
I feel personally as a woman that the first step for any woman to be protected is herself, valuing herself. She should learn to value herself. A girl trying to drink phenyl and then another woman stuffing her body in a suitcase is bizarre. I mean, both the women are fighting for a man who is an abuser and fighting for the attention of a man who's an abuser. She wants to get married to him, and the other woman is helping a guy get rid of a body of a woman he claimed to love. I mean, it is bizarre. The women need to learn to respect themselves as women and stop going after, narcissistic personalities. To start with first. Secondly, in terms of law, there are so many laws already in place to protect women against act of violence, but then as ma'am rightly pointed out, that the signs of violence have to be identified by these women themselves to start with.
No, but to put the onus on women may not be right. Nirmal Kaur, what kind of support do they really get? I mean, in the sense that first responders, in this case the police or the family or the society or their neighbors, they look at such relationships as taboo. We are still not mature as a society to accept a live-in partnership.
It doesn't happen only in live-ins, it happens in regular marriages also. The thing is, the dynamics of a man-woman relationship is changing. I mean, women were always under the control of men. And now, though that control, women also want some freedom. They want to come out of that control. But there are lots of partners who are aggressive, they have aggressive behavior, show dominating tendencies, and they try to control the woman. And all this is happening and it's a pattern. Why? It is not a standalone incident. If you see one incident by itself, it may not mean much. But if you see them together, it's a pattern of violence that builds up. And when you are in this situation, it's very difficult to you think after all it's par for the course. Choti si to baat hai, okay, he's hit me. He'll hit you slightly, then he'll hit you more. And the violence is escalated in stages. And by the time the violence escalates in stages, you are far too gone to psychologically to understand that it's real serious violence and threatening or actually committing physical assault, sexual assault, psychological assault. All this is, it becomes par for the course in such abusive relationships.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Nirmal Kaur, Dr. Chabria and Ishani. That brings me to the end of this show.